Hello everyone. This video in particular is going to be for my tarot aficionados. I know I have a few on this channel, and I've been actually seeing some videos like this over the break that I've been taking. And I thought, since I am looking to diversify and expand on this channel, that it might be a good idea for me to kind of cater to that audience as well, so that, you know, the ones who are here for the readings can get their readings, and the ones who are here more to, you know, watch how readings are done, learn more about tarot, the different decks, and why readers who do this as a profession have so many. So I started out with 3 really good beginners decks. And the one in the middle here is the original Rider-Waite-Smith deck with the illustrations by Pamela Coleman Smith. And this is usually the very first deck that most people get when they start on their tarot journey. Now, oddly enough, this wasn't my first deck, but I wish it was, just for the sake of being able to say that. This deck is really close to my heart. The cardstock is beautiful. You know, I don't necessarily like having it really thick like this deck, where I think there's like 3 layers in here, but I mean, it's not bad. I love this deck. These are probably like my soul decks, and I never really thought about the concept of having a soul deck before, but I really think that, you know, if I were to choose based on how I feel currently, it would definitely be these 2. And this one is following close behind. They are all Rider-Waite-Smith. This is a low Scarabeo deck. This one I think is US Game Systems, if I'm not wrong. I have the box here. I can probably find out. I'm not sure, actually. It doesn't say US Game Systems. Let's see if the little booklet inside has. No, this is not US Game Systems. Okay, interesting. Learn something new every day. But it does have this insert in here as well. These are the 2 extra cards. This one is more about Pamela Coleman Smith and her artwork. You guys truly should look up her artwork, because even though compared to the more modern clones of the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, just what she did, you know, as far as art, it's really worth even a lot of money now, and it takes you into like this different fantasy type of realm. And even though tarot is my profession, it's still something that I look to as an escape, you know, from the stresses of daily life. And if I just want to get lost in a world, because tarot is not only divination magic that you're holding in your hand, it's literally works of art. And I am huge on art. I grew up in an art gallery. My mom spent over 10 years working in an art gallery, and I was always into Van Gogh and Monet, and, you know, those were just like my favorite topics to study, you know, both independently and in school. So I truly just, tarot is something that I enjoy on and off the clock, pretty much. So why do readers have so many decks, right? This is a question that I often get, because I have a lot of spins off of Rider-Waite-Smith, and they're like, well, isn't 1 deck enough? Sure, 1 deck is plenty. But if you are really using it as a profession, you need a variety. And that is because different decks with different colors, different nuances, really bring a lot to the intuitive portion of reading, right? Because you are supposed to get intuitive messages, insights, etc. from the images that are on the deck. That's why you use it, right? I mean, the deck doesn't just have a name and an image for no reason. Like, there's minimal text and more picture there for a reason. And in my time of using tarot and having worked with a myriad of different decks, I'm really seeing why this is important. So I'm going to, forgive me, this is the only deck that's in order. These two are not in order. So this is going to be kind of like a comparative walkthrough, but they all should be facing the right way up, but they're just not all in order except this one. This is the only one that's in order. But I'm just trying to show you the differences, right? Why do I go for different types of decks, even though they're all from the Rider-Waite-Smith family? So for this deck, look at the colors, the thickness of the lines, the artwork. It's very childlike almost, you could say. Like, you know, look at how red this person's face is here. And some of the line work makes it really difficult to tell what is beyond this horizon right here. What is going on in this picture? And some of these images do look a bit pixelated, and yes, this is exactly what it looked like. This is a reproduction of the original very first Rider-Waite-Smith tarot deck that was ever released. So that's why this deck is also special. See how the line work is? It's very sketchy. The coloring is like very spotty, but still there's something about this deck that just really draws you in, right? There's just something about knowing the vintaginess of it that can truly draw you in. Let me see if I can just do this. Now, in most decks, the Ace of Swords, the background is way more yellow than this. This looks kind of aged, like an old newspaper that you might find, you know, in an old mansion somewhere, or in an abandoned home, or in a museum perhaps. And these shades are also not seen commonly in other decks, like the background here, this kind of, it's like a green, this green with a slight tinge of blue. You just won't find that in other decks. And if you look at the shading on her clothes, it's almost like, you know, this pencil etchiness. The Magician card, let me see if I can pull out the Magician here, because I think he is one of the most funnily drawn archetypes. Yep, there we go. Where you can see kind of like, it kind of looks like he has a beer belly here, a pot belly, and just the line work on here. It's kind of funny, but this is still one of my favorite cards in the deck. And you will probably bond with each deck differently. You will feel an intuitive call on which deck to use if you have multiple decks. And sometimes if you don't have multiple decks, like when I first started out, I had maybe 2 or 3 Oracle decks and 1 tarot deck, just one. And some days I'd be like, the deck just doesn't want to speak. Like, I could not, you know, you could feel it intuitively going silent. And that's because I could have used another deck. I should have been using a different deck that had a message for me, even though they are arcana-wise identical, you know, the same 78 suits, cards, etc. But different decks have different intuitive messages that they are willing to speak to you with, that they are wanting to provide to you. So if you are ever drawn to a deck and you are getting into tarot, listen to your intuition, listen to what you feel emotionally connected to, because that is the greatest compass you are ever going to have. I'm just going to kind of walk you through these cards as I speak about this, so you can take a look at the imagery for yourself. Look at how red this lion is here. You know, and just, you can barely tell what's back here, what is behind this woman. But still, this deck has so much to offer. And this is something that in every tarot aficionado's collection, this deck you will probably find. And it's getting harder to come by now. It truly is like, it's kind of like a collectible almost now. But Anyways, I digress. If you ever intuitively feel called to purchasing a deck and you know that you're getting into tarot, whether it's for your own personal readings or whether you are looking to read for others, always listen to that intuitive nudge, because there is a reason you're being drawn to it. And I'll give you another example of a deck that I was drawn to in the past that I purchased, and it just sat there for almost a year, and I would look at the artwork and think, I don't connect with it. Why did I purchase this deck? You know, why was I called to it? So I decided to interview the deck, and the deck actually you know, was there for a very specific purpose. It was there for doing readings for people that were in a lower vibrational energy that needed to be met where they're at rather than to be pushed up further. So it truly, and this is why deck interviews also are so important. And I'm just gonna go, you know, like intuitively flow with this video, so that might be a different video that I do on deck interviews, because they truly are critical. If you're going to be using the deck, you need to know what its strengths and weaknesses are, why it has come to you at this point in time, what your relationship is going to be like with that deck, because these cards are, I like to say, alive. To me, they feel alive. They call to you. You know when they want to be used. You know when they want to be picked up. And some days you can tell yourself that you're not going to touch it, but you're going to feel a pull to them that will make you touch it if they have something to say to you, because they are there as guidance tools for you. You know, they are there almost like, I call them like the the guardian angels in a sense. And you know, that is, I'm trying to be humorous there, but at the same time it's kind of true that these cards truly are there to give you messages, to kind of guide you through this journey of life. And it's important that you listen to your intuitive nudges. It's there to really connect you to your intuition, because otherwise they are just pieces of paper with illustrations and minimal words on them, right? Minimal text. But that is not what tarot is at all. Like, these are actual divination tools that guide you, guide the people that you read for. The High Priestess is actually my personal significator card. When I ask any deck that, you know, like what's my significator card in this deck, 99.9% of the time this is the card that comes out, is the High Priestess. So knowing you know, where you are within the deck and how you're going to work with it, what your relationship is going to be like, that is so important. So you guys can see here in terms of the artwork how some things are a little too blended. You know, not all the details are as easily visible, especially in some of the busier cards, potentially like this, right? And then we have, I'm not going to take you through all 78 cards here, but then we have this Los Scarabeo Radiant Wise Spirit deck. This is the borderless edition. I love borderless cards. I truly want to be able to feel like I can get sucked into the artwork if I feel like it. You know, if I want to enter, I want to feel like I should be able to. See how the images are popping on here. Like, your attention will get drawn to certain things in this deck on certain cards that it won't get drawn to in, say, a deck like this that's more like two-dimensional rather than three-dimensional. I'm going to see if I can find the Three of Swords card in here. I'll take the Ten of Wands as well. Do we have the Three of Swords here? I want to do it like a comparison so you guys can see what I'm talking about, because the illustrations in this deck are more flat and the characters are or, you know, whether it's a caricature or whether it's the symbol, it's just kind of more in your face. I'll take the Three of Cups as well to illustrate, and the Death card. Three of Pentacles. We're getting closer. We're getting closer. Where is it? Here we go. There we go. So look at the difference between the Three of Swords here and the Three of Swords here. In this original, the blue and white backing Rider-Waite-Smith deck, it's more two-dimensional. This is way more three-dimensional. And look at the color difference, right? There is more of a bluish background here. This one is more of a mustardy background here. And look at the clouds. Look at how the clouds are popping. Look at the raindrops, how much more they catch your attention. In this card, it's so much more prominent, right? Now, when you're intuitively reading these messages, there's so much more you can get if you are more aware of the details that are in the card, if you can see them more clearly. Now, let us see the Ten of Wands. The Ten of Wands in this deck versus this deck. Look at that. See the difference in coloring? See the difference in how much in your face a character is versus how further away they look. Even the time of day looks kind of different. You can see certain other details in the background in some that you can't see as well in the other. You can see them all in both versions, but the clarity changes between decks, right? And those messages is exactly what you were looking for. Now, moving on to comparing this original traditional Rider-Waite-Smith to this beauty here. Look at this antiqued version. When I saw this, I absolutely fell in love with it. I just thought, oh my gosh, I need this deck in my life. Look at how beautiful the backing is. It's like a Persian rug or something. Like, the artwork is just beautiful. And darkening around the edges. Now, these are still borderless, you guys. These don't actually have a border. But just the fact that they aged it makes the center pop. You can see things so much more clearly that are in the background with these. This kind of draws your attention to the background, whereas the other decks, they kind of draw your attention to, you know, the character in the forefront. Let's say the King of Swords, for example, like bam, he's just in your face, right? But here we have the Empress. Sure, we see her, but when you first look at the card, what's the first thing that catches your attention? You see this stuff, you see these trees, you see all these other things that don't catch your attention first in other versions of the deck. Here we have the Emperor. Look at that. These two cards can be very similar until you see them side by side, but the background gives it away, right? Like, you see those little nuanced details that you probably don't catch in other versions of other decks. And that's what I absolutely love about it. Like, as soon as I lift this card up and I see, I pay attention to what the first thing is that my eye catches. And that's what tells me the types of messages that I can glean from using these decks in readings. And that's why, even though there are, you know, 10 million different versions of Rider-Waite-Smith, you know, I know this system well. I know what each of the cards contain. I don't necessarily need to see it to know that it's there. But if it's something that's going to be popping out at me, that tells me that that is something of significance to the person that I'm reading for. And I need to pay attention to that symbol. I don't just need to know that it's there. I need to pay attention to that symbol because it's jumping out at me for a particular reason. And that gives me the intuitive hit to look at how that ties into the situation that I might be channeling here. Because these are all very deliberate pieces of art. The artist did not just put stuff in randomly just because they felt like it. Everything, every line in the image of a tarot deck, of any tarot card, means something. And that's really important to know, because even if you see like a little tree in the background that might be standing out to you, look at what you can glean from that. What type of a tree is it? How tall is it? How far back is it? Is it next to a home that might be significant for somebody? You know, looking at all the colors, all the details, not just, oh, here we have the star card. You know, we all know what the star card means, but like kind of diving into the star card, looking at all of the different symbols, the symbolism, and delving into how they correlate with the reading that you're doing. That is what's really going to make you a good reader. That's what's going to make you detail oriented. That's going to help you pick up on all the nuances of whatever messages your spirit guides, your angels, your intuition is trying to relay to you. And that is so, 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 so important. And I really want you guys to see the differences here. Look at this Page of Cups. Just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I'm just so getting sucked into this artwork here that I feel like just showing you guys all 78 cards because it's so gorgeous. You know, look at that. In this deck in particular, this building is what pops out the most. Even though these two characters are at the forefront of the screen, they're not the first things that I see when I see this particular card in this deck. I see this building here. You know, looking at what is on the building, what's around the building, what's happening in that general area will give me the insights on what I'm supposed to know intuitively. And look at how well blended this is, because this is a card of depression, of sadness, of a breakup, you know, or things like that. And just look at how beautifully it captures that energy, because this card in this deck actually looks darker than it does in any other version of, you know, the Rider-Waite-Smith or its clones. And it's important to get emotion out of your decks as well. You know, just look at that beautiful Two of Cups, Ace of Cups here. There's so much hope in this card. Like, things may have seemed bleak, you were just ready to cycle out of a certain phase of life, and you're not really sure how that's going to happen, but here it is. It's like the light at the end of the tunnel. That hope that kind of creeps up on you. You know, you're not expecting it, but something beautiful just happens. Look at how pronounced the grapes are on this King of Pentacles robe. Like, you don't really notice that as much in other versions of this deck. I think I'll just go ahead and show you guys all 78 cards, and I'm just going to stop talking and let you take in the artwork for yourself and, you know, kind of draw your own conclusions on what you think, because I absolutely think that this is stunning. This is such stunning artwork. I love things that look aged, that look older, without actually being older too sometimes, and I actually do appreciate antiques. I'm not opposed to buying used decks and such when, you know, if it's something that's out of print or, you know, more vintagey, like the Green Witch Tarot was pre-loved, and I have no problem with it. It was in excellent condition. The original version of the Romance Angels I have now, that one was like $150 or something on eBay, but I went for it and it was used, but it was in very, very good shape. I'm all about having the originals. I don't like knockoffs at all. So even if that means that I have to wait a little bit before I make the purchase, or that I just kind of have to jump into it, it's something that I do because, first of all, this is a passion of mine, and I don't just collect decks. I actually use every single deck that I have. I use the heck out of my cards, you guys. I really, really do. You can tell, like, this is actually one of my newer decks, but you can already tell how much use I've gotten out of it. Like, the edges and everything are starting to look quite used, quite loved, I like to say, because I do truly, truly love my decks. Just kind of let yourself dive right into the card here. The guidebook that comes with this deck too is like based off of the pictorial key to the tarot that was originally written by A.E. Waite. So that's really nice too. And see the contrast, like certain cards that have a darker energy, you can feel that darkness around the card, and this is such a happy card. This is such a beautiful card, and you can see that even with the darkened edges, this still has that vibrancy. You can tell it's a happy card. This is like this dawn of a new day here. Same thing with this one. And this is the last card, the Ace of Wands. Just stunning, beautiful artwork. So that is my recommendation on why I always get, even, you know, like I can say I have 4 or 5 Rider-Waite-Smith based decks and one that actually is the original Rider-Waite-Smith. Doesn't matter. If you are truly going to delve into the world of tarot and learn it and use it, listen to your intuition. And if your intuition tells you to go for something, now of course being mindful of your budget and life circumstances, etc., that's always important and needless to say. But if you are in that space where you're truly getting into it and wanting to learn, I also recommend doing like a reading for yourself every single day, whether it's a single card draw or a 3-card draw. You can do it in the morning to see how your day is going to go, and then throughout the day kind of reflect on how those cards are playing into your life. Or you can do it at the end of the day and reflect back on how the day went and how those cards showed up over the course of the day. And you can keep a tarot journal as well. I know a lot of my fellow tarot aficionados in the community, not just on this channel, but other aspiring readers or other tarot deck collectors that are learning that, you know, these are all tools that they have found very, very helpful. And I do hope that some of this helps you guys too on your journey in learning tarot and delving really deep into the cards, because they truly do have depth to them. And some decks are really good for shadow work, whereas other decks are really good for healing and just self-improvement, self-reflection. Now, the deck I was speaking about earlier, let me see if I have it around me. I do. This one. I felt the intuitive nudge to purchase this deck when I saw it, and then it just kind of sat there. Like, I've seen art that can be quite difficult to look at. I've grown up around all kinds of art, and this deck is one of those images, or, you know, one of those cases, I should say, where the artwork is a little bit difficult to look at first. This is the Deviant Moon Tarot. But when you actually start working with this deck, you guys, it is quite gentle. It's not what it seems at first sight. That is for sure. I'll go through this deck with you. Let me just kind of pack this away so it's not in the way here. There. So if you look at the little pamphlet that comes inside, and now I have the borderless edition because I am a borderless fangirl. I love my borderless cards. Unless they are really elegant and, you know, don't take away from the picture, then that's different. There are certain borders that I do like, but for the purposes of this, to be able to really delve into this art style, it's good to not have borders as a distraction. What this person did when you read the little leaflet, like I was saying, is he actually grew up, his name is Patrick Valenza. He grew up around a lot of Victorian aged cemeteries. He grew up around some insane asylums. And this is all around, I think, in Long Island, New York or something. He used to take pictures of those things, you know, of the burial grounds and of the asylum. And he would just play with the images on his computer, like lay them out, overlay, bend, shape, whatnot. He actually says in his guidebook that the clothing of a lot of these characters are actually let me pull out the guidebook so I'm saying the right thing, but I think he said it's like the casket or something like that, which I don't know how he would have seen the casket if it was underground, but let's see. He actually used to draw the tarot as a child too, from what I understand. The tombstones is what he said. 19th century tombstones provide most of the clothing worn by the citizens of the Deviant Moon. I bent, twisted, and reformed my photos to become capes, boots, hats, and trim. One of the best aspects of creating the deck was hunting for specific textures as I respectfully tiptoed around the graveyards of eastern Long Island, New York. Background buildings were created with photographs I took of local abandoned insane asylums. Rotted doors, windows, and walls became castles, factories, and cities. So it completely makes sense why this is a difficult deck to look at. The energy is definitely captured within these photos, within these pieces of art. But at the same time, this deck brings a great balance to anyone's collection. This is a deck that can truly hold space for you, that doesn't judge you. You know, and while it is confronting, some of these images are quite confronting and garish, sometimes spooky, a little spooky, but I don't think they're frightening. I personally don't find them frightening, but they do hit you to the core. And if you're using this for shadow work, I think this is one of the gentler decks that you can use as a choice for that, because it's kind of like that friend that tells you the truth, but you know they've got your back. You know, they kind of let you hear the truth, but you know that they have your back. So if shadow work is something that you use tarot for, whether you use it as a learning tool or for self-improvement, I personally would recommend this deck. Even though I don't use it often, I can intuitively tell when I'm supposed to use it for a client reading. And it doesn't come out very often, but when it does, the messages are very spot on and interesting. Insanely accurate readings with this deck as well. So I do recommend, and the backs are actually quite nice. So I do hope that this helps you guys, and let me know what you think of these attempts at diversifying the channel, of having videos up like this, etc. Thank you for joining me, for spending time with me. I will link my other platforms in the video description box. If you've been watching me for a while but have not yet subscribed, please do consider subscribing. And while you subscribe, do hit the little bell notification so that way YouTube will let you know when I upload other content, either like this or my full-length twin flame readings, which I'm most well known for. Yeah, I hope to see you guys on my Instagram and TikTok as well. And be sure that you do click on those usernames that are linked in the video description box, because there are a lot of impersonators out there pretending to be me. I only have the accounts that I list in my video description box. I do not have any other accounts, and I will never request to follow you. I will never DM you first. I will never reach out to you to offer a reading or anything like that. I do not do that ever. So just be careful, be safe. I hope you all are well and looking after yourselves, and I hope you enjoy this video. Let me know in the comments. Thanks so much, guys. Have a beautiful day.